So posture is just the way we carry ourselves, the way we naturally, unconsciously resist gravity. And we can do that in an efficient way, or we can do that in an adaptive compensatory way, which really means we're doing it poorly, poor posture. We're not moving in the way we should.
Welcome back to Shine In and Out, where science meets soul. I'm your host, Sammy Stoltz, and today's guest is Dr. Brett Hill. He is a doctor of chiropractic medicine and the creator of Your Posture program, an educational platform focused on posture, skeletal alignment, and how the nervous system influences long-term movement patterns and well-being. His work frames posture not as a rigid position to correct, but as dynamic, learned expression shaped by daily habits, perception, and environment. Through clinical experience and education, he emphasizes sustainable, self-directed change rather than short-term fixes, which, as you know, is what we're all about. So let's jump right in. Hello, Dr. Brett. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Great to have you. I'd love to start with your background. How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah. So growing up, I played as many sports as I could. I was always active, wanted to play whatever was available in school. And then after that, I thought, well, what else can I do that deals with the body? I wanted to help people. My mom had a lot of health issues. So I thought, I'm going to go be a medical doctor. And I just found in general, a lot of the things with like, there's a pill for this, there's a pill for that, there's blah, 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 just didn't resonate with me. Now, there's amazing things that they do, but that just was something health wise I didn't see as the answer to a lot of the chronic problems, and ended up finding chiropractic and decided, you know what, I'm going to go to chiropractic school. It resonated with kind of how the body works, and it helps to heal itself, and just making sure it's got all the right information. um, and what's interesting, when I went to chiropractic school, I thought, okay, give me the best stuff. I'm going to become the best one to just help people the most. And I realized there's a lot of differences. Kind of annoyed me. I was like, well, how come people call this chiropractic and this chiropractic? And I'm like, you wouldn't even think they're the same profession if you go to those two different clinics, because they're so different. Some of that's really good. It allows diversity, allows people to be helped in totally different ways. But for me, I just needed to know the why. Like, well, why is this helping someone? Why is this impacting them in a way that's not just their back or their neck pain? We see changes in a lot of other stuff. So I went down the rabbit hole of neurology a little bit more, and a lot of different courseworks that I took outside of school, and realized, this makes sense. This is where I can understand what it's doing and apply it in a different way with movement and with other things to have a bigger impact than just the adjustments. The adjustment's powerful, and understanding how that affects our nervous system and our brain was impactful for me. But I needed to know, how do we help empower patients to then stay better? So my model's a little different than a lot out there, in the fact that it's not just come in, we'll adjust you, fix that spine, get you out, and then just keep coming back. I want to send you off, change an impact in the nervous system so that you now maintain or hold that better. So you're empowering yourself to heal that, versus being reliant on the adjustment or the massage or the pill, like we're kind of ingrained to do. And so that drew me to want to do things on my own. I started my own practice with no patients, no space, really. It was just a small room I rented. And because I wanted to do things differently, and I grew it to now where we're at, with multiple massage therapists and acupuncture and chiro, and really now taking this program online, because we just found amazing results with people in fixing their posture in the clinic. And it wasn't something where it's like, oh, we're just going to, here, just do this exercise, you're going to fix your posture. It was because we found the same chronic problems, all related deeply in the nervous system to the foundational aspect of people's posture.
One of the reasons why I chose not to go for an MD was because it all felt like Band-Aid methods, and I wanted to get to the root cause, and I wanted to do preventative medicine. And what you're saying about, wanting people to not need you, wanting them to be able to be empowered for their own health is very rare in any medical space. So I commend you, and your patients are very lucky to have you. Um,
Well, thank you.
So let's start with the basics. Like pretend I'm somebody who's never thought once about posture in my life. What do I need to know?
Yeah, well, and I think I'm going to reverse this a little bit. What is it that you think when you hear posture? What do you think initially? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
I think like correct alignment.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's part of it. Most people think I got to sit up straight, just straight posture. And I think it's important for people to understand what it is and what it isn't, because it is not just thinking, okay, I got to just be straight or I've got to just align that all. Because posture is something we use unconsciously all the time. It's not just when we're standing up or we're sitting and we need to sit up straight. We can sit poorly. It's called poor posture, but we're still using posture. We can do a workout and it can be good or bad posture, but we're still using our posture system. So posture is just the way we carry ourselves, the way we naturally, unconsciously resist gravity. And we can do that in an efficient way, or we can do that in an adaptive compensatory way, which really means we're doing it poorly, poor posture. We're not moving in the way we should. We're not aligning things up in the way we should. We're recruiting all these other bigger muscles because we've lost the core strength support muscles that fire unconsciously. And so as we compensate and we lose this control, we are now more prone for injuries. We're more prone for fatigue and exhaustion because we're overusing our system in not aligning things properly against gravity to be as efficient as possible, doing that with least energy as possible by having it aligned in the right way. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Path of
Good,
least
good.
resistance. And I do think a lot of people, the idea of posture is like, what a lot of effort that is to like remember to always keep myself in the right place. For me, when I'm walking, naturally my posture is, I like to think good. But if I'm sitting for a while and I'm uncomfortable and I'm slipping or I'm hunching at the computer and you see tons of people on their smartphones looking down basically all day. And I know that's not how we were meant to use our bodies. So what are some things that we can be doing better when we catch ourselves doing those things?
You touched on a lot of important stuff there. And if I can just dive into that a little bit deeper, because in order to fix that, basically, the best answer would be we need to get off of those things. But in our societies today, we can't not go through life without being on a phone, without being on the computer, because why those are so detrimental to our posture. And I think it's important, I need to clarify a little bit. Posture isn't just like the easy way out, because when we sit in the chair, it's a lot easier to just collapse. It's a lot easier to just slouch down, because what's happening is the chair is doing the work of holding us up, and we're just letting gravity take us to fall into the joints and ligaments. We're not using the muscle system to hold that up like we should. And so as we sit more with these chairs or we're looking down at our phones, it allows us to collapse while still doing the task at hand. Allows us to be lazy or compensate. And then what happens, our brain's still getting feedback of where our joints are. So it's called joint positioning proprioception. And it doesn't matter day in, day out, our brain is always getting feedback to know how to resist gravity. So if my head's tilted, it's going to tell my brain, well, you need to tilt your visual system, or okay, affect the muscles on this side so you don't fall over because your vestibular system or your ear canals are activating something else. So it's constantly giving feedback. It's constantly adapting to the signals we give it. So when we sit for long periods of time, or we look at our devices for long periods of time, our brain is getting feedback that this is the position we should be at. And in order to hold those positions, it has to lengthen certain ligaments and muscles, has to shift and adapt. But that becomes the new normal. That's where now we look forward at the computer, we look down at the phones, and then we look up, but we look up with this. So my head
Mhm.
goes forward and then we just do this. Now,
Mhm.
because we don't walk around looking at the ground, again, it's just a neural response we're born with. It's called the writing reflex. So this is why tummy time is so important for little kids. They first develop their head by lifting it up, looking at the horizon, and
Yeah.
they want to use that visual system and the ear canals to be balanced and to look straight. And then they start to go on all fours, then they crawl, and then they stand. Now, when they're standing, they're getting that balance system down. They're getting that posture system to really fuel the brain, the frontal lobe, to make better decisions, to make further growth and development. But one of the very first things we have to get is that posture system. So then when we sit in computers and we're looking at phones constantly, we still have that writing reflex that tells our head to look forward. But what happens is these muscles at the base of our skull, top of our neck, get really tight to keep
Mhm.
us looking straight, because we've naturally shifted, because we've told our brain to come forward into the computer or looking down. And so we compensate with those muscles. But then what happens is our lower back gets weak. We don't use our core or activate our core, because as our head goes forward, our body will naturally, due to our vestibular system and the system down our spine that holds us upright, is going to say, hey, it's more efficient if you just drop your hips forward to offset that balance. So now we collapse forward. Those that can't see me, if you can see me, I'll demonstrate a bit, but those that can't, just imagine as the head's forward, your hips are going to come forward, your feet are going to go wider, because it makes that easier to stand. So there's a lot of things that happen neurologically that are just adapting because we're looking down all day. And it's not a problem with our body or our brain. It's doing exactly what we tell it to do. That's the amazing thing with our nervous system. It'll adapt whatever we tell it to do. So how do we combat that? We need to be intentional or have awareness of moving in healthy ways. That's why ergonomics are important. They help decrease strain on the body. But one of the big things we give in our program, we do a posture program in clinic or online. There's three things we teach early on. One, the first thing is head position. Now, you wanted some tips on how do we fix this? People that sit at a computer, oftentimes I see this on YouTube or Instagram or physios or other chiros. Patients will come in and they said, yeah, my physio said to do this. Go to the wall and just tuck the chin. And I'm like, stop doing it, because that's not comfortable. Like, how does that feel? Yeah, it's very uncomfortable. If it tightens up here, because our head doesn't go straight forward and straight back. What it does is it drops as it looks forward. And so we're trying to correct things in a to B direction, 1 + 1 = 2, just saying, okay, it's forward, go back. And we use these big muscles. Well, our brain is using unconscious small muscles. And so what we want to do is think long through the head. You want to lengthen the back of the head and then bring the ears over the shoulder and relax your shoulders. Too many people move with their whole back. In reality, we need to move with the head, relax the shoulders. And then the second thing is we focus on the core, so the pelvic floor muscles. And then third is balance. So one of the biggest tips I can say for people that are sitting at a desk, every now and then take a deep breath in, think of a string pulling you tall, bring your head back, relax your shoulders, push your belly button to your spine, but just feel a relaxation in that position. Posture shouldn't be too overtaxing or too difficult, because we have to hold it all day. If it is, you're using the big muscles, you're using compensatory muscles, and we want to just use these small, subtle muscles. But a lot of times people have turned them off and they don't know what that feels like and they don't know how to use them. So they use their shoulders, they compensate by leaning their whole spine, and they move everything else than what they should be. So that's the first thing. When you're sitting, try to activate that, incorporate the breathing, because it can help us pay attention to the body and relax the shoulders. And then another thing I tell people, if you can, use a standing desk, or every now and then get up every 30 minutes, 40 minutes, stand and just balance. So right now I'm standing as we're doing this podcast, and I'll balance a lot of times and you won't even notice. Like, I'll just balance on one leg as we're working, because it resets my core, it resets my body to be in that position. When I start to lean or start to slouch, I know I'm fatiguing and I need to reset it. So I'll balance again and do some things. So these are some of the things that we give people. And in fact, as an offer for your listeners, we offer it's just 5 minutes a day doing some simple exercises. These three things I'm talking about with the head, your pelvic floor, and balance. And it's the first thing to start with. So if they want, they can get that for free at the end. Maybe you'll share the link, but it's the best place to start and to start making an impact in your posture, because it's not as simple as just looking up on YouTube and being like, oh, do the shoulder shrug every day. They're using all the wrong, those are voluntary muscles. It is not going to fix your posture. It will get it'll get movement there. It's good for the muscles. It's good to move. It's good for the joints, but it is not the deep-seated neural reset we need for true posture correction.
That's so helpful. Yeah, absolutely. I'll put the link in the show notes so everybody has access to that. Sounds like a great tool to get started and kind of break that barrier to entry.
Yeah, another thing that's important, it's not our program. We designed it in a way that anybody can do it because posture, you're not going to go to the gym and get a workout and sweat doing our program because you need to control these all the time, all day. So what we want people to do ideally is take a couple minutes in the morning and do this exercise. And then later in the, as you're waiting for your coffee or you're having lunch or you have a little break at the water cooler, whatever it is, filling up with gas, we say, okay, do balance right then as you're filling up with gas. Wait, activate it multiple different times throughout the day because it's reteaching the brain. Every time you do these tiny little activities, of what does that feel like? Where is it? How do I engage it? So that it's easier to recognize when you lose the posture. And it's this neuroplastic change. The more you activate it, the more the brain can change and those synapses get stronger. So the just like an athlete learning to, shoot a basketball, a slap shot, whatever it is, the more they do it becomes automatic. They don't think about it. The nervous system fires it the same every time. So we want to activate the brain to sense it in all different ways in doing these small different activities.
Brilliant. It's so incredible that like a bunch of the things that you've said, I was just recording a video yesterday. Just on my way home, I was having all of these thoughts about things that people need to hear. And a big part of it was tiny shifts can have huge results. And so many people are like, okay, I'm gonna fix everything in a day. I'm gonna change my posture and I'm never gonna slouch again starting now. And then it's and then it's a lot of pressure. And really it's not good for your nervous system to go all in all at once.
No, it's not. I mean, how many people have made New Year's resolutions and are like, "Oh, what was that? Yeah, I did that for a week." Those it's hilarious. But we do that not just in at New Year's. We do those in our lives constantly, all the time. And all we get out of it is this sense of like, oh, I failed in that. Yeah, I didn't do that. That was a good try. Well, it doesn't have to be a good try or it's not a failure. It's something that what we're choosing to do each minute, each second really impacts the day to day or the month or the year bills of who we become or what we really want. It doesn't mean we failed or that we can't do it. There's always going to be other stresses or other things that come in. But you're right. It's these little tiny changes that make massive differences. I mean, you think of a flight, of getting on an airplane. If they're just 1 degree off course, but they're going a lot of distance, they're going to be ending up in a completely miles and miles away. But it doesn't take a lot to be that far off. Same thing in our life. If we just focus on those little things, we can make big course corrections, but we don't see it at the time. It's just slowly building. And that's what we see in our program too.
Yes.
When we initially assess people, and that's one of the first things we do with people. And so anybody that's interested, if they have a question where they're at, getting an assessment to kind of get a sense of where are you? A lot of people don't know. They're like, yeah, my posture's not great. But what does that mean? Where is it really? So when we show them these pictures, and we can do it in clinic, they can do it online as well through an app that connects to our clinic where they take the pictures, we analyze it, and we go over a video call of what those results are. A lot of times, we can say, oh, do you have any of this problem with your jaw or with your shoulder or with whatever? And they're like, yeah, how do you
It's
know?
all
Because we
connected.
can see it. It's all connected. And so our assessment, we want to know their health. We go through these, but having that awareness, then we go through the program and in 5 weeks we reassess. And then at 10 weeks we reassess. And it's like, wow, I didn't realize I was making that big a change. That was a huge, huge change by just doing these simple little things every day. And then at the end, you can really see that transformation.
Absolutely. It's so much easier to maintain and you don't have that barrier to entry once again when it's just a tiny little, oh, okay, I'll do that while I'm getting gas. Like you attach the habits together. But of course, and I struggle with this, trying to help people with their wellness. We live in a society of immediate gratification. So if you're not seeing results ASAP, you're not likely to continue because everything else shows you results ASAP, your phone, every little thing lately. So I like the idea of doing those tiny activities and having those checkups where you're showing people how much things have changed. Because otherwise, sometimes for me, it's like years later, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't have that problem anymore. Like, it's
It's
amazing.
so true. So, that's one of the hardest things, and it's everybody. If people think that I can always keep my posture great, or I'm every health thing I can do perfectly. There's times where I'm like, yeah, I was busy. I didn't get that work in or that little exercise or whatever in. That's normal for everyone. And I think that the trick is we've got to shift our mindset of like, do I want to be empowered to take care of this, or do I want someone else to take care of it? Because you're right. We can be entertained. We have a break. Everybody goes on their phone and social media, like entertain me is basically what we're saying. Because we want to veg out. We want to relax a little bit, but it becomes so easy. 20 minutes, 30 minutes have gone by and we're still on that. No, like feels like it was 5 minutes ago. I've done it, and I'm sure many people do. But we can get stuck into those habits because it's easy. People will be in pain. They'll come in and they'll be in pain for a long time, had this issue for years. And I'm like, well, why now? Why are you doing something about it now? Well, it's gotten to the point where I just can't get through my workday with focusing, or I can't do this. So it's not the pain that brought them in. It's the fact that that pain is now affecting their life enough that they can't accomplish what they need to or the things they want to do. And now they need to do something about it. If we treated our cars that way, if it's like, well, you know what? The tires are worn out. I'm slipping a little bit, but I can still get where I need to be until we crash. And then it's like, yeah, I guess I'll fix it all. Or well, the oil light's on, but it's still got some, it still runs. It's okay until it's like, now I have to do a major fix on it. That would be dumb. But yet,
Yeah.
we do that to our bodies and our health all the time. And we just think, oh, well, I'll just wait and then I'll get the surgery to fix it versus taking control of that now. And that's with posture. It really, we see it affect so many aspects of people's health, from vertigo to ankle problems to shoulder to a lot of these things. And they're like, and most people have a multitude of it. It's not just one thing. It's not just one headache. It's just the headache and then the lower back and the shoulders and the neck tension. They're all related to the same thing. That's why we created this program, because we kept finding the underlying issue was you don't know how to stabilize your body properly, and it's compensating through all these other muscles. We ask the why. Why is that muscle tight, and why is this tilted, and why is that? It's because it's adapting to things you've been previous injuries, things you've been doing every day. Sitting at a computer is really the worst. And they don't notice that. They just notice where that pain is and they want that fixed right away. And I'm like, yeah, we can get you out of pain. To maintain that, to keep you out of pain and to fix everything, you need to get to the root of it. When people get it and they clicks and they are tired of like, okay, I'm tired of taking that pill. I'll just being on the Botox for the migraines, whatever it is, because it's now didn't last for 6 months. Now it's only 3 months. Now it's only 2 months. They realize, okay, that's covering up the symptoms. I'm not fixing it. And then when they do the program, I have yet to find someone who has been consistent with the exercises we've given them or the activities we give them over that 10 weeks, not see amazing results and changes in their health and their posture.
It's amazing. And I know that feels so great to be able to reach more people than you even can in person. I'm trying
Mhm.
to build kind of an online course myself for that reason. The more people we can reach with this message, the better. And I love how you frame it. And I always say, your body is your partner. Like, you have to see your body as your teammate in life, because you can't do anything if your body is not well. And your body is working all day and all night, even when you sleep. All of the cells, all of the organs are working constantly to keep you healthy. And you're shoving like chips and not giving it the nutrients that it needs. And I believe that the body was built to naturally heal itself. And it has all of that biological intelligence. You just need to put it in the right environment. So let's talk about that environment.
Sounds good. Yeah, well, you nailed it. I mean, you should be a chiropractor because that's a lot of the mentality with it in a bigger sense. But how do we change that environment? And unfortunately, people still got to go to work, and they're hitting these deadlines. They still have those stressors. They've still got if they're driving a lot or commuting a lot, they've got to sit and do those things. So we're not going to take that out. We're not going to change that. But rather than, sit there and wait on your phone the whole time, do something intentional with how you move. Change your setup. I tell people, how many hours a day are you working? It's worth investing in a stand up desk and some things to change what you're doing day in and day out, because that adds up in a year from now, 10 years from now. You know, that will make a huge impact. So I think the biggest thing for people is to be intentional with it, recognizing in any position. So one of the things we go through, we call it a sit to stand, and then it transitions into a squat as one of the exercises as we get through the program. It's kind of midway. And so it's something where it helps people recognize every time you get in and out of a chair, focus on these muscles, use them, because we can't give you more time in your day. We can't say, okay, do everything you're doing and now make an extra hour of your day somehow reappear. So incorporate these things in your daily life, because really that's when you're going to use posture. You're not going to just use it when you go to the gym and have these perfect exercises you're going to do. So I would say for people working at a desk, that is the most detrimental thing to people's health in a broad space of chronic problems and their posture specifically. But with that, put a timer or get in the habit of every time someone sends you a message or an email or whatever it is, that you're like, okay, I'm going to stand up and do, 10 seconds of balance or 5 squats or these sit to stands, like in and out of the chair, or whatever it is. It can be 30 seconds worth, but it will make a massive difference when you're doing it throughout your day. And so people driving in the car, here's something they can do right off the bat is sit your butt in the back of the chair. Now, a lot of cars have terrible support. They say they have lumbar support, but it's all in the wrong spot. So take a towel or a sweater or something, just shove it at the base of your spine to kind of prop that up a little bit. It doesn't have to be very much. You don't want it too thick. But then have your headrest where you can just feel the head, sit back, sit tall, relax your shoulders, and then adjust your mirror. So adjust the top mirror, your side mirrors, where you can sit at a neutral position. You're not reaching too far. You're not like leaning back and reaching with your arm or your leg, where you have to shift your hips because you can't reach the pedals. Shift it so you're comfortable, neutral position, but get in that tall position, feel the headrest, then adjust your mirrors, because every time you slouch and then look in your mirror, you're going to be like, man, I didn't realize I was losing my posture that fast, that often. So it gives you these cues. The more we have those cues and the more we're intentional with it, the more we can make a change.
That's a great tip. An easy way to check yourself. So, balance. I've realized in the last year that I've had to work on my balance. Like, it's not something that just sticks around if you don't use it. So I've been intentionally working on it. It all happened when I had to walk on this log. I was doing like a litter cleanup volunteering, and there was a piece of litter that I had to walk across a tree over the water to get it. And in my head, I was like, oh, this is totally fine. As soon as I stepped onto that thing, I was like, oh man, that's scary. But as a kid, I could just
Yeah.
run across it, no problem. So
Yep.
I think balance, especially in the sense that it's those small stabilizing muscles, especially as you get older.
Yeah.
What do
I
you
was
what
going
do
to
you
say,
wish
so
more people, yeah, what do you wish they knew about?
well, that's one of the leading causes of death and injury in the elderly population is risk of falling and then a fracture. So balance is a major issue, and a lot of reasons why balance is thrown off is use it or lose it. So we don't use the balance system.
Yeah.
But posturally, as we collapse, as the head goes forward, it changes our whole center of gravity, our whole
Mm.
balance system. And you don't see an elderly person walking down the street hunched over and they got that big hunch and they're just barely looking up and think, man, that's great. They must be healthy. We
Think of how
immediately know that's not healthy, but yet we don't think I should definitely work on my posture. It's directly correlated to our health. mentally, emotionally, and physically, neurologically. And it's really at the root of a lot of health issues. So balance is a huge factor because as our center of gravity's shifted, if our head goes forward, now, like I said, we'll actually, you'll see it in people when they stand, their feet will be splayed out and they'll be pretty wide stance naturally all the time because their body will adapt to try to be more efficient in holding itself up, but the balance system is off unconsciously. It doesn't even know it. But because the posture's collapsed, it has to have a bigger base of support to support that balance. So it's a huge thing. Now, we see it as something, oh, yeah, kids have good balance. And then as we get older, we lose our balance. No, it's a user to lose a principle. So kids that aren't at the playground, walking on balance beams or on the curb, walking and, challenging their balance system nowadays, sitting on video games and other things where they're not getting that activation. Guess what? Their balance is garbage and their posture is terrible. And we've worked with like 11-year-olds in this program where it's really transformed their posture. You don't have to be old or you don't have to, yeah, be an adult to see these problems. Yeah, so balance is a huge thing. And when even just bringing your feet closer together, when you bring that center of gravity, you'll naturally feel your core have to activate and your balance system fire, and it'll help improve your posture unconsciously just by activating that balance system.
I love how you frame the body is always just trying to compensate to make things right for you. And I've always wanted to study like how we could change the perception of pain from a punishment for not treating my body right versus communication from your teammate that something needs to change. Like it doesn't need to be shame,
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be guilt. It's like, yeah, let me do my part. Thanks, body. Um,
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. I mean, it's designed there for a reason. We have, when we feel hot, we want to know it's too hot. Now there's pain. You you can't handle that. It's a protective mechanism naturally in our body. Now the problem is, like I said earlier, we kind of live with pain and we're like, it's not that
yeah, now
important. I'd
chronic
rather
pain is
still
like
sit on my phone or, I can live with this pain. I'd rather just take that pill and I'll be fine. We don't listen to it as my body's in pain. It's telling me that for a reason. And when we turn it off, it's like, well, okay, I guess it's not that important. We'll keep collapsing, keep adapting. It wants you to be healthy, but it only adapts to whatever we tell it. So if we're telling it to keep collapsing or keep not moving, it's going to be like, all right, we can do this, but you know what? Here's that pain a little bit more because we can't keep going on this path. And it's trying to help us out with those signals.
thanks, body. So one thing that came up for me when I was thinking about talking with you is the connection between posture and breathing. And when I was in my beginnings of my meditation journey, just it's very important in meditation to be erect. Like anywhere you look, that's a part of it. So sitting, back straight, whatever position. I remember that being very hard for me, like to sit on the floor and keep my back straight. It was very difficult.
Mhm.
And it probably is, I mean, it still is today.
Yeah.
But I think about breathing being huge for the nervous system and a huge tenet of meditation, um, and how the posture can change our ability to breathe properly.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if you think and it's easy to do. It's easy to test on yourself if you just kind of drop your head forward, your shoulders are going to follow. So you drop your shoulders and try to take a deep breath in that position. And then sit up tall, stand up tall, let your shoulders kind of roll back and just relax and take a deep breath in that position. You can immediately feel the difference. What we don't realize is, when we lose postural control, our rib joints don't move very well. We pull through the shoulders more. We're usually more tense in our shoulders. We hold stress there. And this is where breathing, when it relates to our posture, there's also a little deeper aspect of that is the connection to the emotional and psychological states that we are in. When we feel depressed or anxious, we hold that in our body. We change our body position, our postural tone because of that perception of threat or perception of how we feel about ourselves. So when we put ourselves in good posture, we not only breathe better, which helps us. It's so important. Breathing is so important. It's the only joint that should move 24/7 is our rib joints. And when we lose posture and we're restricted there, it's going to affect the activation of our brain. It's also going to affect the oxygenation of our nervous system. And that's huge because our brain and nervous system need three things. They need oxygen, glucose, and activation. So when we're activating in a poor way, we're also not breathing in a great way. We're down on two things. And if our nutrition's not good, then we're down on all three. And it's going to relate to how we feel brain fog and fatigue and depression, anxiety. I mean, those are crazy highs for people
Yeah.
and in societies. And there's other factors related to it. Those are things we can control. Those are things that we can change where the stressors can still be there, but we see it differently. And so it's a massive impact. When we think of someone presenting or on stage, they're told to have their superhero or Superman pose for a reason. It makes them appear and feel confident, feel strong and authoritative. Well, what if we just made that our posture? What if we just held our posture in this confident position? How do you think our perception of ourselves or others would see us? And how do you think we'd feel about ourselves as well? We can directly correlate that mental state and emotional state with our physical state of how we hold ourselves. And posture is that's why it's at the root of a lot of things neurologically and a lot of things health wise.
I mean, it's called body language for a reason. You're
Hmm.
communicating with yourself, with your mental state, with everyone around you. So, one thing that has been counterintuitive for me that I think a lot of people probably have this mindset is after a really long day of working, especially sitting at the desk, I'm really like achy, sore, tired, and all of those postural muscles. But I have found that going to the gym and getting the blood moving and actually like moving and using those muscles makes me feel brand new after. But I think a lot of people are like, I'm in pain. No way am I moving that. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, like, and again, posture is not just standing straight or sitting up straight. Yes, that's important aspects of our posture, but holding that statically for long periods of time is very fatiguing and very uncomfortable. So that's why I say people that sitting at a desk, make sure every 30 minutes, 40 minutes, you want to move, even if it's 30 seconds. Movement is lubrication, just like oil to an engine. You have to have movement. It lubricates our joints. It activates the nervous system to sense and fuel our brain differently. It gets that blood flowing to add nutrition to different areas. So it's actually quite fatiguing for people that work at a computer. Even though they're not physically doing a lot of activity, it's exhausting at the end of the day. And so one of the things, if they just force themselves to do some of these exercises, these activities we do, it'll restart their posture system and it'll like recharge their brain. Like I said early on, when we develop as a child, we gain that postural tone. Once we're resisting gravity properly, all the joints of our spine gives, which is which is actually like 90% of our brain health is just from holding us up against gravity. So that postural effect is huge and it fires that frontal lobe, which wakes us up and gets everything else working. When we don't move, and our posture is poor, it shuts down those areas of the frontal lobe, which is our higher center learning areas, goes more to our neocortex or old brain and limbic systems. So these areas of just kind of automatic instant response areas. And so movement is so key and it will recharge that system and renew it. Movement is oil to the joints and it's the best therapy for pain.
Thank you. I think so many people need to hear that. I needed to hear that. And it's hard to believe when you're in the midst of pain. I was sitting so much working and not fueling my body properly and not moving properly. And I was in so much pain in my feet, my ankles, my knees, my hips, like every joint hurt. And so I was like, I can't walk. I can't go for a walk. But the more I forced myself to do it, the less pain I was in. And it's the synovial fluid. Like you said, it's the movement. We are meant to move. Our bodies reward us for moving. In the nervous system, in the brain, our neurochemicals, all of these things fights depression, anxiety. So, like we were saying, it's
It,
all connected.
it is. And one of the important things too, I think for people to understand, it can be simple. It can be simpler than you think. Sitting at your desk and just like moving one leg up and then moving the other one up. Start there, lifting the toes, doing some toe raises, doing like a few air squats, and then that be your movement for a bit, and then do it again repetitively, little tiny bits. Boy, you'd be amazed at how much of an impact. You don't have to start running, or you don't have to start doing big things. And that's a big part of how we designed our program, because we wanted it to be simple for anybody to implement, to incorporate in their daily lives. And it makes big differences, but it doesn't have to be like, well, I can't do that, so I'm just too tired. But you know what? I don't think you're too tired to do like 5 sitter stands, or even just like bring your arms up and then back down. Start there. I mean, just movement. You'd be amazed at how much that can do.
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of stretching at my desk, and people might look at me funny. That's fine. I'm doing what's best for my body. But what I love is you're not broken. Like, people just automatically go to, "There's something wrong with me." There's nothing wrong with you. Like, the idea here is, of course, you're in pain. This is not how we were evolutionarily built to use our bodies. So it's natural to be in pain. I listened to this TED Talk, and it was about sleep posture and how ideally it's 8 hours of our 24 that we're spending sleeping anyway. So might as well have good posture while we sleep. But how do you sleep? How do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, that sounds great. We should have good posture while we sleep. We should have good support. Now, that being said, I have found for a lot of people, and everybody sleeps a little differently. So to try to force someone into, say, this is the perfect posture when you sleep, well, that can have other effects where if they can't get into the deep REM cycles, they can't get comfortable enough,
Mm,
or they're trying so much to focus on, I have to stay in one position. Sleep is a
mhm,
really
that's true.
important time where our brain heals, and there's so much going on that helps prepare us for the next day of healing in our body and our brain, and resetting things. And so those deep cycles, you can tell a big difference when someone's had a good sleep versus a bad sleep. Does that good sleep mean they slept in perfect posture versus a bad sleep?
Mm,
No, there's a lot of other factors. So I found it's something, even as I've tried to change the way people sleep in some aspects by little bits, their body will go back to what it knows to get into that
mm,
comfortable position, to get into that deep REM sleep. So in theory, that sounds great. But the other factor is really, like I said at the beginning, posture is really about how our body effectively resists gravity. When we're sleeping, we're not really resisting gravity. We're allowing it to relax. The bed does the work against gravity, but our bones, our joints, our muscles, that nervous system is not being activated to hold us in our vestibular system to resist gravity. So it's not really firing. So it's not really that important.
okay. I would love your input because I either lay flat on my back or on my side. And I know that they say put a pillow between your legs, all of that jazz. But when I sleep on my side, maybe if I spend more hours doing so, I feel like my shoulders are doing this and that it's probably not good for me in my waking hours to have been like this for so long.
Yeah. I'm the same. What I find is when I sleep on my side, I more so turn my head a little bit, and almost get this sense that I'm on my side, but not fully on my side, because yeah, it does. It compresses that
I've been
in.
doing that
And when we
lately.
keep in that position, we can't breathe as deeply. And so sometimes just putting, even if it's just a little bit of the blanket, kind of when you wrap it a little behind you, or a small pillow or something, you can feel like you're not flat, but you're slightly tilted, but allows you to sense, okay, I'm slightly on my side, but a big part is that head position, making sure your neck is supported, you can relax in that. But you're right, it can be detrimental, like crushing that shoulder. I get patients sometimes, I'm like, how do you sleep with your arm over your head like this and you're on that? Like, no wonder your shoulder hurts all the time. But they literally would like tie their arm down to reset it. And there are times when it's like, okay, we've got to make the change here, because you're hurting your body by the way you
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah. I definitely did a deep dive little rabbit hole of my own trying to figure out, how did our ancestors sleep? Like, are pillows even right? Like with the C curve and
Mhm.
everything, like, is it right to have our head forward just like it is when we're on our computers, or should we be more like, you know, head straight back? I don't know.
Well, what I recommend, like, you do want to be able to lay flat, but a lot of times that can push to flatten the neck a little bit when it's a harder surface. What I recommend is
Mm.
pulling a pillow down to where it can be, at the shoulder, so it's not something that pushes your head forward, but allows this
Okay.
soft fill to fill in the neck, but you want to be neutral from the shoulders to the head without a tilt, so keeping it in that neutral plane. So sometimes pulling that pillow down to the shoulder level allows that to stay at the same level while I'm just adding some support under the neck. But yeah, you're right. You don't want like people that have two pillows and they're propping their head way up. I'm like, that's not
That's
helpful.
what I do. I kind of tuck it in. I kind of pull it forward so it's like it holds my shoulders down even.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good to know. Thank you.
You
So
bet.
finally, I'd like to talk about the nervous system because, as you said, this plays a major role. So, say chiropractic's on its own, you know, alignment, wonderful. But what further should we be doing for our nervous system's sake, in addition to all of that?
Yeah. Well, like I said, the nervous system just adapts to whatever we tell it. Now it has to have the right things like oxygen, nutrition, and activation. If we're if we're activating the nervous system by always watching horror movies at the end of the night, well, it's not gonna help it to calm down and respond effectively. It's gonna hold that in the nervous system. Or if we are constantly trying to be like, "Yeah, all I need is 7 hours, 6 hours, 5 hours of sleep, and I can make it work, and you get through this week, blah, blah, blah." Well, it's taxing that nervous system. So, the in ways that we really affect the nervous system, there's a lot to it. Um, I think that's one of the things that drew me to the posture is the fact that that is something we can learn to control on a deeper level. Hydration's important, nutrition's important, but even myself, I find it really hard in our day and age have the time to always eat healthy. And you know what? There's some good things that I really like, and that's part of my enjoyment. But I try to limit it. I try to be reasonable, and and
Balance.
so yeah. And I think making sure that we take time, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but that we take time to step away from worldly things, step away from the phone, the social media, and reflect on where am I at? What am I feeling in my body? What is my nervous system telling me? And I think connecting on a deeper level, just little bits here and there. For me, it's nature. I love being in nature,
Me too.
outside. It's a way to get activity, get exercise, be healthy, but also just kind of like turn everything else off. Um, so hopefully that answers your question a little bit. I mean, there's a lot to it, but to me, those are important.
Oh, absolutely. For me, it's if I don't take my long nature walk once a week, I am feeling a lot more frazzled.
Yeah.
So I really like that suggestion. Before we wrap up, is there anything, what is the overarching message that you want the world to hear today?
Yeah, what I say a lot of times, I mean, posture is important to our health on a foundational level, but more importantly, the things we do, the time we have, to me, it's the most important commodity. If you're just trying to make the money, as much money as you can, and just burn yourself out, and you're going to regret it because you won't have the health, you won't have the ability to use that money for what you really want to do. Our clinic is called Experience Life for a reason. Our online program is
Love that.
yourpostureprogram.com. But ideally, we want people to experience life. And that means you've got to invest in your health because the things you do today, the little things you do this minute, this hour, this day will affect you next month, next year, 10 years from now. Those things you can't continue a lot of times on the path we're on. We're doing the same things. And then in 5 or 10 years, think, well, when I make it or when I get this
Hmm.
level or when I get that surgery, then everything's going to be better. It's not. It's not. And so take the time to do the little things and invest in yourself now so you can experience all the things you want next month, next year. Those things, those memories is the times that I remember the most are the memories of things I was able to do with my kids. That's the most important memories that I hold and with my wife. And those experiences, backpacking or whatever we did, I cherish. And I wouldn't have those times. And I keep planning more activities and things to spend my time doing if I didn't do the little things day in, day out to maintain my health and to to affect that in the future.
What a beautiful answer. I could not agree more. I used to be someone that was like, "This is who I am. I work all the time." And then when I
Mhm.
lost my
Mhm.
health, I realized that that was the most important thing, and I couldn't help people without
Mhm.
my health. And it's hard to watch people I love, you know, commit themselves to the chronic stress of the grind without living their life in the meantime and saying, "Oh, I'll live my life
Yeah.
later." You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
We all
Yeah.
gotta live now, and we gotta
Yeah.
sometimes you gotta schedule it in there. So, I'm glad
Yeah.
you said that
Yeah.
too.
Exactly.
Thank you for being here, Doctor Brett.
Yeah.
I think
No.
a lot of people can learn a lot of things from this episode.
Well, I hope so, and that's my goal. Provide value, help people. That's truly what I want to do. And so, thank you for having me on. I appreciate the conversation. And you know what? If you want to do that assessment for yourself, we love to offer that for you for free to get that assessment, see where your posture's at. But for everybody else, I mean, go to that yourpostureprogram.com/videos and get those free videos. Start doing something today that can impact your health. And I encourage people to do that. Thanks again for having me. And yeah, I appreciated it.
Absolutely. All the links will be in the show notes. Thank you so much. Doctor Brett, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your wisdom. You clearly have such a passion for helping people in this lens that you never know what can come out of fixing your posture. You never know what ailments you're experiencing that are related to it. Like we said many times, everything is connected. So I hope you had a lot to learn from this episode. If it resonated with you, I would love for you to like, for you to comment, and send it to somebody who you think it could benefit as well. Thank you. All of the links will be in the show notes. And until next time, keep shining.